My son was born naturally, no C-section. So what do you do with that? What do you do with that? What do you do when you're at a moment where everything's going well for you? Your faith is strong, but your wife doesn't want to believe in him. And you pray that she has discernment and a connection with him, and he presses on her and manifests and he shows up in her life where she can see him tangibly and believes in him. And you're coming home from a church and you feel good that you were in a good worship service and you got a good message given to you that night and you're encouraged. And then you're driving home. And the reality is you're coming home to a wife that doesn't believe in that same God. You're unequally yoked. The Bible says, don't be unequally yoked. Don't be married to someone that doesn't believe in God. Because it's going to be hard. It's hard. It was very hard. So much so, before I went into the house, I stopped. I turned around. I looked up at the stars. I said, Lord, I know I know that you're worthy to be believed in. I believe in you. But at this moment right now, I need to know that you hear me. And I'm not asking for my answers to be always a yes to prayer, because I know that you know better than I do. You know the end from the beginning. You see things that I don't see. And your counsel is better than mine. So if I ask for something and you don't give it to me, I know that you're keeping me from having that because it's better for me not to have it. You have something better for me. It may come in a different form. It may come later. I may not get it at all. And it's okay because it's coming from you. But at this moment right now, I need to know that you hear me. And I said, I'm going to ask you for something. And I already know what I'm asking for because you knew I was going to ask this before you even created the worlds, because you know everything. And you probably were smiling, thinking to yourself, like, of all the things this man can ask me, he's asking for this. I said, I need to know that you hear me. If you give me this, I know for the rest of my life in this flesh that whatever I ask, that you heard the request. And if you answer it, I'm blessed. If you don't answer it, I'm blessed. Whatever the outcome is, I'm never going to second guess why it did or didn't happen. But I need to know that you hear me. That's all. Out of all the people constantly talking to you, talking about you, saying you don't exist, right now I know that you hear me. And if you hear me and what I'm asking for is just a confirmation that you're able to cut through everything that's going on and single my ask of something from your hands, that request, that you hear it. I need that right now because it's wearing on me that my wife can't see you. It's wearing on me that you don't change her and give her the faith. Like I need this person. I need this. I said, I'm going to ask you for something. And I know that you're probably laughing right now. Like out of all the things you could ask me for, you're going to ask me something so trivial as this. And I even said that. I said, I know what I'm about to ask is probably silly, but I feel like I feel like I know I'm going to get it already. Like I know it's going to happen. I said, I need you to send me a shooting star right where I'm looking at right now. And I already know you're going to send it. I don't know why, but I'm not even going to blink. And where I'm looking at, I believe it's going to come. And in the 70s, I only remember this because I used to be babysat by a woman that was very mean to me, actually. But she used to watch like General Hospital and Days of Our Lives, that type of old housewife thing where they watch soap operas. And anytime they showed a scene at the hospital, they would show you the pulse monitor. It would be like these two little pinpoints of light bouncing as they met each other, and it would go to the side and it would go beep, 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 beep. Well, it looked like I saw something like that. And it was maybe, I don't know, 5 or 6 seconds of doing that from the right to the left where I was looking at. And it wasn't an airplane. It wasn't any kind of like beacon lights on a helicopter or airplane. It was, I don't know what it was, to be honest with you. But where it stopped, a small little pinpoint shooting star started there and went the other direction. And before I could say, wow, thank you, I've had this discussion with people before. I shared this in my private mentorship, and some jerk put it out into the public. And I'm not ashamed of it. I wept at the whole time describing it, and I'm fighting it back now because I want to make sure that you hear me. But if you could take your right hand out right now and outstretch it in front of you, as far as your arm can go in front of your face. Okay, and hold your hand out like you're holding like a grapefruit. Okay. Imagine a ball of fire the size of a grapefruit in your hand, that far away. Okay. But you see it in the sky. It starts from the left to the right, and it goes across the entire area where I was looking at. The whole area where I was standing lit up because it was nighttime. It lit up like it was noontime. And not only did it light up the whole entire area, I heard it crackling as it was going through. It was moving slow. It wasn't like I've seen like green meteorites shoot across because I'm an avid star watcher. I have telescopes. I like watching that stuff. And I've seen shooting stars. I've seen little green meteors that happen. You usually see them stuff like that. There's a really neat little short that's been showed on YouTube that's been popular for the last couple months, where they see this girl's looking down at the camera, and all of a sudden, this big green meteor shoots across the sky over her. It's beautiful, once in a lifetime opportunity. This was not green. It was like an amber, like fire. Like it was yellowish, like a fireball, basically. And it moved from left to right, and it moved so slow. There was no way I could have missed it. It was exactly where I looked, and I heard it as it was entering the atmosphere. Like it was like loud, like crackling, and it lit up the whole area. And then as soon as it dissipated, I was jumping up and down, laughing and crying at the same time. I'm looking around like, was anybody else able to see that? Like, I'm by myself. And the first thing that came out of my mouth was, thank you, thank you, thank you. And am I allowed to say this to anybody? Like, am I allowed to say that I saw this? Or am I supposed to keep it to myself? Like, I didn't know. But what that told me was that number one, there's a God. He heard what I said. I asked him a very simple thing. Give me this, and I know that you can hear me. That's not an answer to prayer every time I ask for something. I told him, I said, I'm not asking you to give me a yes to everything, but this will give me the faith that you, since you're the author and finisher of our faith, I need this right now because I'm worn down because I can't win my wife to you. I don't know what to do because I'm worn down. I need this, Father. And he gave it to me. What do you do with that? What do you do with that? And I know every time I've shared this story with people in a medium like this, it's easy to discount like this guy's nuts. I love when you do that because I'm going to get a reward for that. I love it that you think that way about me. Call me crazy, call me whatever you want to call me, because I will be blessed because of that. I will receive a reward for that. But I share this because I want you to tempt him, test him, see that he won't do these things when you ask him with a real genuine heart and request for it. He will lovingly manifest himself. He doesn't want you walking through this world with no faith. If he's made a testimony in the word that says he is the author and finisher of our faith, why wouldn't he want to give you the faith if you ask him for it? If he's God, why would he not want to give it to you? He would. And that's what I based it on. I told him, I said, listen, I just left a church that'll say, don't tempt the Lord. And I'm about to ask you something. And I don't think it's tempting because just like I mentioned a little while ago, I said, Gideon asked you 2 times. You spoke to him and he wanted to make sure he didn't have a bad pepperoni pizza the night before. So he said straight up, if you're God, if you're the Lord, put the dew on the sheepskin or the ram skin and not on the grass in the morning when I wake up. And it was like he asked. And he said, okay, now reverse it. Let the dew be on the grass, but not on the skin. And it was like that the next day. And he said, okay, now because you did this, I'm canceled out any possibility that I'm imagining this. I'm not having a schizophrenic episode. Something's really going on here, and I trust you now. So what is it you want me to do? Now, if tempting the Lord was not asking him to prove himself, what do you think he was doing in Egypt? Proving himself. He made a handicap for himself by hardening Pharaoh's heart because it only would have took the first plague and they would have tapped out and said, take these people out of here. He hardened his heart. He made him resist God because he wanted to prove that their gods are no gods. Ra, the sun god. Oh, yeah? Where is he at when I turn the sun off? And you feel physically the darkness. And only the Hebrews had light. What was that light? That was Christ. Dagon, the river god, the fish god. Oh yeah, is it? Watch this. The river turned to blood. Everything's dead in it. Where's Dagon at? He's on a vacation. He made a mockery of every other god. When Elijah was on Mount Carmel and Baal was up there and they were having orgies and they were cutting themselves and they were worshiping Baal, and he's over there trolling them, laughing at them. Well, yeah, cry louder. Maybe he's taking a nap. Maybe he's taking a leak. Maybe he's on a journey or a vacation. Yeah, he's hard of hearing. Speak up loud. And then finally he had enough of that stuff. He's like, okay, listen, 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 listen. Come on over here. Watch this. Let's build an altar here. Put 12 stones, one for each one of the tribes of Israel. He said, take 3 buckets, cover it all with water, put the offering on, cover it all with water. It's okay when I watch. Lord, show him. You're the only true and living God. Take this sacrifice so we can see who's what. Because Baal ain't showing up here today. Boom, the fire came down, licked up all the stones, licked up all the water, and the offering is gone. But gone. Everything. Earth is scorched. You turn to Baal worshippers. Now who you gonna believe? Who's God? And the ones that said, well, it's obviously the Lord, your God. They said, okay, now turn on against them and kill all the rest of them. And they slew them all. There's only one God. Only one God. Evil is in this world, yes. And many times they attribute things to why they do things because it's God's will. That's not God's will. That's not God's will. God's will is for us to love one another and come to the knowledge and understanding and love of Him and recognize what He did because He didn't have to do it. And I want to spend my time at the end of this month doing more of these kind of discussions. And it's not going to be your cup of tea. I know some of you are like, I'm not interested in this. Okay, good. Go do whatever you're going to do and have fun, whatever you're doing, and be happy. But I have an overwhelming desire to be doing this. Like, I don't know how to describe it. I just feel like I need to be doing more of this. And I started a YouTube channel that's not monetized. And I put a couple Bible studies up that I felt that were interesting. And you're welcome to take a look at them. And you can find the channel at the @ symbol Berean Study. It's BEREANSTUDY. It is absolutely Christ-centered. It's Christ-based. It's not an invitation to go to church because I don't go to a church. I don't go to organized religion. I look at it like the Book of Acts. They didn't have churches like we have churches today. We have businesses like 7-Elevens on every church corner. There's a church everywhere in your neighborhood. And all of them are businesses. They're all 501(c)s. They all allow a person to run up a mortgage being paid off so they can sell the church later on. That's their retirement plan. And they take 10% of people's money, and that's not biblical, period. End of story. If you're a pastor listening to it, I would love to debate you with the scriptures because I would tear you up. I would literally tear you up. I would take you in there into the Hebrew and show you exactly what you don't see. I'll take you into the Greek and show you what you don't see. You are subscribed to some kind of church doctrine, some dogma that allows you all to fleece people. God doesn't need people's money. When Peter needed the temple tribute, Jesus said, go out there, drop a hook. Don't put bait on the hook. Drop the hook in the water and pull up immediately what you get on there. He pulls up a fish, and what's inside his mouth? A coin. God can find a way for you to get money. If He wants you to have it, He can do that for you. He doesn't need your money. God didn't walk in the flesh as Jesus said, oh, the temple. Okay, let me reach in my pocket real quick and grab that money for you. He don't need that. We use that here. There's more teaching about how money's a problem in the eyes and minds of believers than it is that you need to give Him it. What does He need money for? When He asks for a coin, He said, hey, look, give me a coin. He says, look, whose face is on this coin? Caesar. Okay. He throws it back to him and says, render unto Caesar's what is Caesar's, but render unto God what is God's. Praise and worship is what God is, that's owed to God. Money is not what Jesus seeks. God is not in need of money. That is a currency that we created here. That is not, God doesn't need money. He owns everything. He makes the world. He creates every new baby that's born. He takes the time physically and fashions each one of them together in their womb. Every single one of you are fearfully and wonderfully made. He doesn't need money. And to take people and scare them into hellfire if they don't give 10% of their gross income and then tell them, yeah, but you pay the government taxes and they get that money before you get your money and you don't want to give God 10% of that. God doesn't need my money, but he loves when you spend your money on helping others when they're in need. That is real giving. But tithing is no longer a thing, period. And Abraham he didn't tithe on his income. He tithed on one instance, one time. And what happens when it says that you got to go if you have your tithe, which is always food, it was never money. How do you know that? Because if the tithe is too much for you to carry in your travel, then sell it for money. And then when you arrive at where you're going, take that money and buy whatever your heart desires, and you and your household eat it before the Lord and be glad. How are you going to pay 10% of that? You'll never hear them preach on that. You'll never hear them preach on that. But I'm telling you right now, I can do that. And that's the verse that I found when I was trying to defend paying tithes, which I did that time. I paid 10%, 5% in offerings every single week. I supported overseas ministries and overseas ministers. I did all that stuff because I was told this is what God would love. So I was like, okay, well, I want to do what God would have me be. I want to make him happy. I want to please him, and I'm a giver at heart. So let me do that. And then my friend, who was having a hard time meeting his bills, he was in the ministry. He was actually working in the sound booth, doing all the recordings and the production aspects of the presentation, the lighting and all that stuff.